Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Welcome to your Sunday Nugget on the LA Times podcast. We welcome you. Please help us out by hitting the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be reminded of future videos. So your Sunday Nugget today, hopefully you have a Bible near you or you could read on the screen. We're going to take a look at Psalm 23. This is a very beautiful psalm. It's often portrayed at funerals and stuff, but there's so much life in it. It's not just for death, it's for everyday living. This psalm, Psalm 23, in the Old Testament was written by David. Yes, King David. And he's writing, this is what something you need to use your imagination. In verse 1, he says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." So, in other words, he's saying, he's speaking. And you got to remember, David, growing up before he was king, was a shepherd. He used to take care of the sheep. So he's speaking, looking back and comparing his life where it is now. He's putting himself in the place of a sheep. And he's saying, "The Lord is my shepherd." In other words, the Lord is the one who watches over me. And you got to remember, during David's time, when he was a shepherd, he would fight off bears or fight off lions or whatever would come near to him. He would tear it apart to protect the sheep. That's what he did. When he was anointed king, he was out in the field. He was taking care of the sheep. He was doing that. That was his hale, for lack of a better word, his work. That's what he did. So here he is saying, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall not want." In other words, God gives me everything I need. Maybe not everything I want, but everything I need. So he's putting himself now in the place of a sheep and saying, "The Lord is my shepherd." And then he goes like this in verse 2. "He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters." So here we have a picture where he's saying, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. What happens if you're a shepherd? If you're a shepherd, you lead the sheep from one green pasture so they could eat to another green pasture. They're constantly moving. If you ever seen shepherds with their sheep, he's constantly, once they finish feeding on a particular area, he'll move them to another area where it's more green. So he said he leads me down in green pastures. And then it also says he leads me beside the still waters. Not, he's giving us a picture of calmness, that we're in the presence of our shepherd, which he's saying is the Lord. Remember, he's putting himself as a sheep. The Lord's not going to lead us down the rapids, down the white waters. He's saying he's going to lead me. He leads me beside the still waters. No matter where you go in life, the Lord's with you. And even if it gets bumpy, the peace of God is still there. He leads me beside the still waters. He's guiding. Verse 3, "He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake." So whatever we're going through, we're down. David says, man, that the Lord restores his soul. He leads them in the paths of righteousness. He leads them in the right way for his name's sake, because you're his. If you belong to the Lord, you're his. He leads you in those ways, and he'll restore your soul if you give him a chance, man, and just love him, and he's right there. He is your shepherd. He is your shepherd. Remember, the sheep to a shepherd. David right now, again, is putting himself as the sheep as the Lord is guiding his life. He's giving us a picture, And then verse 4 says, and you got to picture this. You got to remember that during the times of David, as the shepherd is leading sheep, sometimes they would go through little areas where there might be a hill on one side or a cliff on the other side, and they would have to walk between them or walk between two cliffs. But what happens in those cliffs? In those cliffs could be danger. There could be, let's say a wolf, coyote, predators ready to attack the sheep. And as they go through these two cliffs, guess what? Guess who's with them? The shepherd. The shepherd is there to protect them, because David was a shepherd, but now he's speaking like a sheep, as a sheep, and we're going through these things. So imagine these next verse. We're going between these two cliffs, but God's with us. So here we go. In verse 4, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So here he is again. David speaking as more the sheep, saying, I'm going through the valley of the shadow of death. I fear no evil. So he's walking through this area, this unknown area, this dark area. There could be predators. There could be a lot of things. And sometimes we go through those things, guys. Sometimes there is stuff. There's life-threatening. There's diseases. There's cancer. There's so much stuff. There's so many things that hit us. And though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, David says, I will fear no evil. Why? He says, for you are with me. And then he says this, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now here's the picture. And one of the things I've done through the years, whenever I get a chance, I pull over and I watch the shepherds, you know, the sheepdogs, if you want to say. I don't even know if they're called sheepdogs, but the way the shepherd will whistle, the sheep will follow, and they'll come, and the dogs will help guide the sheep. Well, anyways, so imagine again, they're going through these two cliffs. Here they go. They're going through the cliffs, and then there's dark, they're uncertain, but they feel the rod or the staff on their back, and they know that's the shepherd touching them. Imagine the sheep are going through this dark valley between two cliffs, and they feel the shepherd's rod on their back, knowing that the shepherd's with them. It gives them the courage to go forward. So he's saying, David's saying, you know, your rod and staff comfort me. So whatever you're going through, when you feel the Lord's presence, or you're reading his word and he speaks to you, his rod and staff comfort you. No matter what you go, the valley of the shadow of death, Jesus will be there to encourage you, to strengthen you, to lift you up, to guide you beside still waters, to lead you to green pastures, you know, and you will not fear because Jesus is with you, you know. And in verse 5, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. In other words, God will take care of you. He will shine for his name's sake. He will make a table before you in the presence of your enemies. The picture here, man, is that there's these enemies all around. Let's say these wolves are watching the sheep, mountain lions, right? They're watching the sheep, coyotes. They want to get the sheep. But you know what? But Jesus has them in his pasture, the green pasture, feeding them, protecting them, and there's nothing the enemy could do. All they could do is watch on and knowing you're being protected. You anoint my head with oil, it says in verse 5. My cup runs over. I don't know if you've ever had dogs or something, but sometimes, you know, if it's an outdoor dog, sometimes the flies could attack, and they could attack the ears, and you put an ointment, an oil on it, which in the Bible, many times the oil is a symbol of the Holy Spirit. But, you know, you put ointment on there so the flies can't get to it, so healing could occur. So here we have this picture. You anoint my head with oil. In other words, these oils could keep certain flies away, certain insects, certain stuff from wanting to bite the sheep. You know, it could also take care of, you know, the wool or whatever you would call it, you know. So he anoints my head with oil. My cup runs over. You know, in other words, like, this is too good. This is too good. My shepherd loves me. This is speaking as a sheep who's protected, a sheep who just loves his shepherd. The shepherd he could trust with everything, and we could trust him with everything. Verse 6, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So here we have the sheep pretty much saying, hey, goodness and mercy is going to follow me all the days of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And you know what? That's the promise, guys. That no matter what we're going through in this life, we all got stuff. There's stuff I'm going through. There's stuff you're going through. You know, we're all going through stuff. But surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And even after this life, once you walk into the valley of the shadow of death, we're all going to watch there. The death rate is one for one, right? There's no one who's ever, you know, survived and stayed alive forever. You know, Jesus is the only one. He died on the cross and he rose 3 days later to be risen in eternity, right? but no one's lived on this earth forever. So we're all going to die. And when we walk through there, don't worry, because in verse 6 it says, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Even when your last breath here is going to be your first breath over there, in heaven, And Jesus is near. So here we have again, David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He's speaking from a sheep's perspective. He's putting himself in the place of the sheep and putting the Lord as the shepherd. The Lord is the shepherd. It's up to him to take me to green pastures and green pastures. It's up to him to lead me beside still waters. When I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he comforts me, his rod and staff, and I'm going to live forever with the Lord. So you got to picture, I really encourage you to look at Psalm 23 and even look at some of the stuff about sheep and shepherds. It's interesting, Read about the life of David in Samuel, in the book of 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. It's incredible. You see his start as a shepherd and how he would protect the sheep, and how he wanted to go fight Goliath and how he led the kingdom and his failures. He had failures just like us, but we get up. Maybe today's the day you need to get up. Today's the day you need to get up and start just reading your word, finding a good church that teaches through the Bible. There's a lot of good churches out there. None of them are going to be perfect, because guess what? Churches are filled with imperfect people. The only one perfect is Jesus. We do our best and commit the rest. But today's the day you got to get up, guys. I really encourage you today, start reading through the Bible. Start somewhere in the book of John. If you want to read about this, go to Psalm 23 or go to Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel. There's some amazing stories in there on friendship, love, all kinds of stuff. Just start 1 Samuel chapter 1, keep reading. But if you're new to the Bible and you're just going to start and say, today, Paul, you lit a fire under me, man. You know what? Today's the day, man. Get up and do it. Just do it, even right now. So this is your Sunday Nugget, guys. We give Sundays, man. This is our day. We honor the Lord the first day of the week, just like the apostles did. The first day of the week, they gathered. And so anyways, you guys have a good one. God bless you. This is Big Pablo signing out. Please sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. See you next Sunday. But also look what I dropped recently. There's a couple of stories I dropped recently of lifers who've committed murder and all that stuff. And even David committed murder, but God forgave him. And God forgave these guys. Hear their stories. Go to the videos, the last 4 or 5, you'll find about 4 different stories of incredible men who changed their life. And yes, there was victims, and yes, there was all this stuff, but God's able to forgive to the uttermost. From the guttermost to the uttermost, he's able to forgive. So he turned their messes into messages. So I really encourage you guys to get in your word. Again, thank you again. Talk to you soon. God bless.